My name is Ethan Carter, 32, a senior software engineer at a reputable tech firm. I've been married to Sophia Carter, 30, a marketing executive, for 6 years. Sophia and I were the power couple everyone envied. We were the type who finished each other's sentences, laughed at inside jokes, and held hands even when no one was watching. At least, that's what I thought. The crack started to show at her company's annual work party, a glitzy, overthetop event held in the ballroom of a five-star hotel. I was there as the ever-supportive husband, dressed to impress in a tailored suit, standing by her side as she schmoozed her colleagues. The party was buzzing with free-flowing champagne, a live jazz band, and enough corporate egos to fill the Grand Canyon. Sophia was the star of the night, everyone adored her. She looked stunning in a black cocktail dress, her smile lighting up the room. I was proud, standing there like her biggest cheerleader, until it all came crashing down. The joke that started it all. It began with a light-hearted icebreaker game. The MC asked everyone to share their most embarrassing secret or moment, turning the crowd into a sea of laughter and awkward giggles. Sophia, ever the life of the party, decided to go next. She grabbed the mic, her eyes sparkling with mischief, and said, "Okay, so, last month, I had the wildest night, and let's just say it involved tequila, a hotel room, and waking up next to someone who wasn't Ethan." The room erupted in laughter. Everyone thought it was a joke. Even I forced a chuckle, though my stomach clenched. But then, I saw her boss, Derek Weston, 45, a smug VP of sales, choke on his drink and exchange a quick glance with Sophia. That wasn't just a glance, it was a spark of panic, guilt, and something darker. My world starts to crack. I froze. My mind raced, but I couldn't process what I was seeing. Was it possible? No, it couldn't be. This was Sophia, my Sophia. The party carried on, but I was stuck in that moment, replaying it over and over. I started to notice things I had ignored before: the way Derek hovered around her, the way she laughed just a little too hard at his jokes, the way they seemed to share some unspoken connection. When she walked off to get another drink, I followed her. I couldn't keep the gnawing suspicion at bay any longer. "Sophia," I said, keeping my voice steady, "what was that joke about?" She turned to me, her face a perfect mask of innocence. "Oh, come on, Ethan. It was just a joke, don't be so uptight." But her eyes betrayed her. They darted to the side, avoiding my gaze. "Does Derek have something to do with this joke?" I pressed, my voice lower now, almost a growl. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second before she recovered. "Ethan, you're being ridiculous. It's a work party. Can we not do this here?" But I couldn't let it go. Not this time. The truth comes out. Fueled by paranoia, I decided to find out for myself. While Sophia mingled with her colleagues, I grabbed her phone from her bag, something I'd never done before. My hand shook as I unlocked it, using the passcode I had memorized without ever thinking I'd need it. And there it was, a string of texts between her and Derek. Flirty messages, plans to meet up, even photos I wish I could unsee. The most damning one was a message from the night of her supposed girls' weekend. It read, "Can't stop thinking about last night. You're incredible. I'll book the same hotel next time." My heart sank. The air felt heavy, like I was drowning in it. But the final nail in the coffin came when I scrolled up and found a video taken during one of their escapades. I couldn't watch it. I couldn't. I confronted her right there, in the middle of the party. I walked up to her, phone in hand, and said loud enough for the closest groups to hear, "Sophia, care to explain why Derek's texting you about hotel rooms?" The color drained from her face. The room seemed to go silent, or maybe it was just my ears ringing from the rage boiling inside me. Derek, who was chatting with another colleague, froze and turned toward us. "Ethan, let's talk about this later," Sophia hissed, grabbing my arm. "No, we're talking about it now," I snapped, yanking my arm away. "In front of all your colleagues, just like you embarrassed me with your little joke." People started to gather around, their faces filled with a mix of shock and morbid curiosity. "Sophia, tell them about your joke with Derek," I shouted, holding up her phone. She didn't say a word. Derek tried to step in, but I wasn't having it. "Don't you even think about it," I warned him, my voice ice cold. The drama unfolds. Sophia burst into tears, but they weren't tears of guilt, they were tears of being caught. "Ethan, please, not here. Let's go home and talk." But I was done playing the fool. "Oh, we're going home, all right. And when we get there, you're packing your things and leaving. This marriage is over." The party was officially over, for us, at least. Sophia ran out of the ballroom, followed closely by Derek, who looked like a deer caught in headlights. I stayed behind for a moment, feeling the weight of a dozen eyes on me. I didn't care. My pride, my heart, and my trust had all been shattered in a single night. As I left the party, one of Sophia's friends, Megan, 29, a junior marketer, grabbed my arm. Ethan, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Don't be, I said, my voice hollow. But tell me something, how long has this been going on? Her silence was all the answer I needed. That night, I sat alone in our empty house, staring at the wedding photo on the mantel. The Sophia I married wasn't real. She was a faked, and now that it had crumbled, I was left with nothing but anger and betrayal. And as I sat there, something inside me shifted. If they thought they could humiliate me and walk away unscathed, they were dead wrong. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing relentlessly on the nightstand. My head was pounding, not from alcohol but from the whirlwind of betrayal that had obliterated my life the night before. It was Megan, Sophia's friend from the party. I hesitated for a moment. What could she possibly want? I let it ring twice more before finally picking up. Ethan, Megan's voice was rushed and hushed, like she didn't want anyone to hear her. I need to tell you something. Meet me at Cafe Verona, in 30 minutes. Please. I almost hung up. What could Megan possibly add to this disaster? But something in her tone, panic mixed with guilt, stopped me. The bombshell. At the cafe, Megan was already waiting, her face pale and her hands clutching a cup of coffee like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I shouldn't be doing this, she started, her voice trembling. But you deserve to know the truth. I sat down, my arms crossed. The truth? You mean there's more than my wife screwing her boss? Megan flinched but nodded. Ethan, it wasn't just Derek. The words hit me like a freight train. My jaw tightened, and I leaned in closer. What do you mean, wasn't just Derek? She hesitated, glancing around the cafe nervously. Then she leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. Sophia, she's been seeing someone else too, a younger guy. His name is Ryan, he's 24, and he's one of the interns at our company. My stomach churned. Ryan? A 24-year-old intern? I didn't know whether to laugh or flip the table in rage. That's not all, Megan continued, her eyes filled with guilt. I overheard Sophia and Derek talking after you left the party last night. Derek wasn't just some affair, he was blackmailing her. He found out about Ryan and threatened to expose her if she didn't, keep things going with him. I stared at her, the puzzle pieces of this twisted nightmare falling into place. Sophia wasn't just cheating, she was trapped in some sick, tangled web of her own making. And you're just telling me this now? I snapped, my voice louder than I intended. I didn't know how bad it was until last night, Megan said, her voice cracking. Ethan, I'm sorry. I thought you should know before things get even worse. The hidden truth. I drove home in a haze, Megan's words looping in my mind. Blackmail? An affair with a 24-year-old intern? How deep did this rabbit hole go? When I got home, Sophia was sitting on the couch, her face a mess of tear-streaked makeup and regret. She looked up at me, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of the woman I married. But then I remembered Megan's words, and the anger bubbled up again. Ethan, I need to explain, she started, her voice trembling. Oh, I bet you do, I said coldly, throwing my jacket on the chair. But you better make it good because I just had an interesting chat with Megan. Sophia's face went white. Megan? What did she tell you? Everything, I spat. Ryan, the intern? Derek blackmailing you? Did you really think I wouldn't find out? She broke down, sobbing into her hands. Ethan, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Derek found out about Ryan, and he threatened to tell HR. He said he'd ruin my career if I didn't go along with it. Her words disgusted me. And Ryan? What's your excuse for him? Or was it just fun playing cougar while your husband worked overtime to pay for your lifestyle? I was stupid, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I was lonely, Ethan. You were always working, always distracted. I made mistakes, but I never stopped loving you. Her words hit me, but they didn't soften the blow. Loving me? Is that what you call screwing two men behind my back and humiliating me in front of your entire company? She fell silent, her sobs echoing in the room. The revelation that broke me. And then, just as I was about to storm out, she dropped the final bombshell. I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air like a noose tightening around my neck. I froze, every emotion I had, anger, betrayal, heartbreak, colliding at once. Pregnant? I repeated, my voice dangerously calm. And whose child is it, Sophia? Derek's or Ryan's? She didn't answer. Her silence was deafening. That was it. That was the moment I knew there was no coming back from this. Not for her, not for us. As she sat there, crying and begging for forgiveness, I walked out the door. But I wasn't walking away. No, I was planning something far more satisfying. Sophia had destroyed my life. Now, it was my turn. When I left the house that night, I didn't just leave my cheating wife behind. I left behind the version of me that believed in playing fair, in second chances, in being the bigger person. As I drove aimlessly through the city, her betrayal and the tangled web of lies kept replaying in my mind. Sophia, my wife of 8 years, had not only cheated on me with her boss, Derek, but with a 24-year-old intern named Ryan. And if that wasn't enough to destroy me, she was now pregnant and didn't even know who the father was. Sophia's sobs and pleas for forgiveness echoed in my head, but they only fueled my anger. I had given her everything: my love, my trust, my loyalty, and she had repaid me with humiliation. If she thought I'd sit back and let her get away with this, she had no idea who she was dealing with. I pulled into the parking lot of an all-night diner and sat there, staring at the neon sign flickering above the door. Revenge wasn't just something I wanted, it was something I needed. But it couldn't be sloppy or impulsive. No, I wanted my revenge to be as calculated and devastating as the lies she had built around me. Step 1: Building the strategy. The first step was simple: gather evidence. If I was going to destroy Sophia's life the way she had wrecked mine, I needed proof of her affairs, proof of her lies, and proof of just how far she had fallen. I reached out to an old college buddy, Liam, who worked as a private investigator. Liam, 36, was the kind of guy who could find dirt on a nun if you gave him enough time. When I called him, he didn't ask too many questions. "Ethan, I'll take the job," he said. "But you sure you want to go down this road? This could get messy." "Messy is exactly what I want, Liam," I replied coldly. "Find out everything. I want to know who she's been with, when, where, everything." "Consider it done," he said. Over the next week, Liam worked like a machine. By the end of it, I had a folder thicker than a phone book. Photos, text messages, emails, even surveillance footage. He had even tracked down Ryan, who turned out to be as clueless as I expected. Apparently, Sophia had told him I was just some distant husband who didn't care about her. Liam also discovered something even more delicious: Derek, her boss, was married, and his wife, Lisa, was an attorney. Step 2: The silent setup. The second step was more delicate: plant the seeds of chaos without getting my hands dirty. If Sophia was going to fall, I wanted her to take Derek down with her. I sent an anonymous email to Derek's wife, attaching all the evidence of his affair with Sophia. Photos of them leaving hotels together, copies of text messages where he threatened her about Ryan. It was all there. The subject line simply read: "You deserve the truth." Next, I decided to make things even more interesting. I found a burner phone and sent a message to Sophia, pretending to be Derek. "We need to talk. Lisa found out. I think she's going to HR about us." The panic I imagined on her face as she read that text was almost enough to make me smile. Almost. Step 3: The corporate implosion. While the personal side of Sophia's life was beginning to unravel, I turned my attention to her professional life. She was proud of her career at Evermark Solutions, but I knew that once her dirty laundry came to light, she wouldn't have much of a career left. I reached out to Karen, the HR manager at Evermark, under the guise of an anonymous tipster. I told her everything: the affairs, the blackmail, even the rumors of Sophia using company funds to book hotels for her rendezvous. Karen was skeptical at first, but when I forwarded her the same evidence Liam had gathered, her tone shifted. "This is serious," she said. "We'll conduct a full investigation immediately. Oh, and one more thing," I added. "You might want to check your employee handbook about relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Derek's position as her boss might complicate things." By the time I hung up, I knew the dominoes were already starting to fall. Step 4: The social bombshell. The final piece of my plan was the most public and the most humiliating. Sophia loved her image. To the outside world, she was the perfect wife, the hard-working professional, the woman who had it all. I created a fake social media account and started posting the evidence. Photos of her and Derek, screenshots of text between her and Ryan, even a snippet of the surveillance footage Liam had captured. The posts were vague enough to keep my identity anonymous but damning enough to make sure everyone in her circle would see them. Within hours, the account blew up. Her friends, family, and co-workers were all tagging her, commenting, and sharing the posts. The perfect image she had worked so hard to maintain was crumbling before her eyes. The calm before the storm. Sophia, oblivious to my involvement, was drowning in the chaos I had unleashed. She called me, sobbing and panicking about how her life was falling apart. "Ethan, someone is spreading lies about me online. Derek's wife found out about us, and HR is investigating me. I think I'm going to lose my job." "Wow," I said, feigning concern. "That sounds awful. I guess karma's a real bitch, huh?" "Please, Ethan," she begged. I need your help. We can fix this together. I almost laughed out loud. The woman who had betrayed me, humiliated me, and shattered my trust was now asking for my help. I'll think about it, I said, hanging up before she could say another word. But I wasn't thinking about helping her. I was thinking about the final act of my revenge. The grand finale that would leave her with no doubt that I was the one pulling the strings. The storm I had unleashed was building momentum, and I stood in the eye of it, watching Sophia's world implode. It was time to take things up a notch, to bring the chaos to its crescendo. If Sophia wanted to play games, I was going to show her that she was out of her league. The corporate collapse. The first explosion hit at work. Sophia had always been the darling of Evermark Solutions, the employee who could do no wrong. But that morning, as she walked into the office, she was greeted with hushed whispers and sidelong glances. Her co-workers had seen the anonymous posts. The HR investigation was in full swing, and her boss turned lover, Derek, wasn't returning her calls. By noon, Karen from HR summoned her to the conference room. The confrontation was swift and brutal. Sophia, Karen began, her tone icy. We've reviewed the evidence, and we've discovered serious breaches of company policy. Not only have you engaged in inappropriate relationships with your supervisor, but you've also misused company funds to support personal activities. Effective immediately, you're suspended pending further investigation. Sophia stammered, trying to explain, to justify, to beg. But Karen wasn't having it. You'll need to clear out your desk by the end of the day, Karen added. And don't think about reaching out to any of your colleagues. The legal department will be in touch. Sophia's face turned ghostly pale as she stumbled out of the room, clutching the few remaining shreds of her dignity. That night, I received a text from Liam. Liam HR nailed her. She's suspended, and Derek's wife filed for divorce. Derek might lose his position too. You're a damn genius. I smirked as I read the message. Phase 1 of my revenge was complete, but I wasn't done yet. Derek's downfall. Derek was next on my list. As the man who had brazenly paraded around with my wife, he deserved nothing less than total annihilation. With a little digging, Liam had uncovered some dirt on him that wasn't just scandalous, it was criminal. Derek had been embezzling funds from Evermark to bankroll his lavish lifestyle. Using the burner phone, I sent an anonymous tip to Lisa, his soon-to-be ex-wife. Along with the affair evidence, I included details of his financial misdeeds and even attached copies of falsified invoices Liam had found. Lisa, being the shark of an attorney she was, wasted no time. She filed for divorce, exposed his embezzlement to the board of directors, and leaked the story to the local press. By the end of the week, Derek was not only facing divorce proceedings but also a full-blown criminal investigation. Public humiliation. While Derek's life crumbled, Sophia was dealing with her own firestorm. The social media account I had created was now the talk of the town. People were sharing the posts faster than I could have imagined. Her friends began distancing themselves. Her family, once proud of her accomplishments, was now avoiding her calls. Even her own sister, Leah, 32, called her out publicly in a comment under one of the posts. Leah, how could you do this to Ethan? He gave you everything, and this is how you repay him? Shame on you. The final nail in the coffin came when Sophia's parents, Margaret, 58, and Frank, 61, showed up at her apartment. We raised you better than this, Margaret said, her voice trembling with anger. How could you betray Ethan like that? He's been part of this family for almost a decade. I don't need a lecture from you. Sophia snapped, but her defiance was short-lived. Frank slammed his hand on the table. Don't raise your voice to your mother. You've embarrassed us, Sophia. Do you understand that? You've ruined your reputation, your marriage, and now your career. They left without another word, leaving Sophia to stew in her own guilt and regret. The grand finale. The night before I executed the final step of my plan, I received another desperate call from Sophia. Ethan, please, she sobbed. I know I messed up, but I'm losing everything. Derek's gone, Ryan won't even talk to me, and I think I'm going to lose my job. I need you. Please, can we at least talk? I let the silence hang for a moment before replying. You want to talk, Sophia? Fine. Meet me at Briarwood Bistro tomorrow night at 7. Wear something nice. The next evening, I arrived early, taking a seat at a table in the back corner where I could see the whole room. When Sophia walked in, she looked like a shadow of her former self. Her makeup was hastily applied, her hair was unkempt, and her once confident stride was replaced with uncertainty. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sitting across from me. Let's get one thing straight, I began. I didn't come here to patch things up. I came here to give you a reality check. Before she could respond, a waitress approached our table. Would you like to order? She asked. I smiled. Actually, I think my date just arrived. Sophia's confusion turned to horror as Lisa, Derek's ex-wife, strode over and sat beside me. You two deserve each other, Sophia spat, standing up to leave. But Lisa wasn't done. Oh, don't go just yet, Sophia. I thought you'd like to know that Derek's entire career is in ruins. He's under investigation for embezzlement. And as for you, well, HR is forwarding the results of their investigation to the police. Misusing company funds is a serious offense. Sophia froze, her eyes wide with panic. You can't do this to me. Lisa leaned in, her voice dripping with venom. Oh, sweetheart, I already have. Sophia stormed out of the bistro, leaving me and Lisa to toast to the sweet taste of vengeance. The final blow. As I walked back to my car that night, I felt a sense of closure. I had orchestrated Sophia's downfall with the precision of a master conductor, and the symphony of her destruction was music to my ears. But I wasn't quite done yet. Tomorrow, I had a meeting with my divorce attorney to finalize the papers. In the settlement, I planned to take the house, the car, and whatever else I could strip away from her. Sophia had played her games, but I had won the war. Sophia's implosion was like a wildfire that scorched everything in its path, leaving her isolated and broken. For me, it was a time to rebuild, not just my life, but my sense of self. Yet, as I moved forward, the wreckage left in the wake of my revenge brought unexpected consequences. The divorce hearing. 2 weeks after our confrontation at the bistro, I found myself in the cold, sterile courtroom where the final chapter of our marriage would be closed. Sophia sat across the room, looking drained and disheveled. Gone was the polished, confident woman who used to light up every room. She avoided eye contact as our attorneys presented our case to the judge. My attorney, Mark Davison, 45, a sharp and no-nonsense litigator, laid everything bare: her affair with Derek, the misuse of joint funds, and her overall betrayal. Your Honor, Mark began, my client has suffered emotional and financial damages as a result of Mrs. Carter's actions. We request full ownership of the marital home, a 70% share of joint assets, and reimbursement for funds that were misappropriated during the marriage. Sophia's attorney, Rachel Lane, 39, tried to fight back. Your Honor, Mrs. Carter deeply regrets her actions and is willing to settle amicably. However, we dispute the financial claims, as Mr. Carter's career and investments remain intact. But the evidence I had painstakingly gathered spoke louder than Rachel's weak defense. The judge ruled in my favor. I walked out of that courtroom feeling a strange mix of triumph and exhaustion. Sophia's expression as the gavel fell was etched in my mind. She looked utterly defeated. Sophia's new reality. Word spread quickly after the divorce. Sophia, now jobless and penniless, had moved in with her parents. Frank and Margaret were less than thrilled about their new house guest. Liam kept me updated on her downward spiral. She's practically a hermit now, Liam told me one evening over drinks. Her parents are sick of her moping around. She's burned every bridge she had. A part of me felt a twinge of pity, but it was fleeting. She had made her choices, and now she was paying the price. Her attempts to reach out to me didn't stop, though. My phone would occasionally buzz with a text or a missed call from her. I never responded. Derek's collapse. Derek didn't fare any better. His embezzlement scandal became the talk of the town. He was fired from his position at Evermark, and Lisa's legal team made sure he lost nearly everything in the divorce settlement. The last I heard, Derek had relocated to a dingy apartment in another state, barely scraping by. Lisa, on the other hand, was thriving. She sent me a text one day. Lisa, dinner's on me next time. Thanks for everything. My new beginning. With the divorce behind me, I poured my energy into my career and personal growth. I sold the house and used the money to start my own business, a consulting firm that focused on helping small businesses streamline operations and increase profits. It was a leap of faith, but it paid off. Within a year, my firm was flourishing, and I was finally living the life I had always dreamed of. I reconnected with old friends and started traveling again. I even adopted a dog, a scrappy little rescue I named Maximum. He became my constant companion and a reminder that life, no matter how broken, could be rebuilt. Sophia's desperation. Sophia's desperation reached its peak 6 months after the divorce. One evening, as I was unwinding with a glass of wine and Max at my feet, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Sophia standing there, her face streaked with tears. She looked gaunt, her once vibrant energy replaced by sheer exhaustion. "Ethan, please," she whispered. "Can we talk?" I sighed, leaning against the doorframe. "What do you want, Sophia?" "I need your help," she said, her voice cracking. "I made a mistake, a huge mistake. I'm lost, Ethan. I don't have anyone else." Her words hung in the air, heavy with regret. A part of me wanted to slam the door in her face, but another part of me, perhaps the part that once loved her, wanted to hear her out. "I'm not the man you used to know," I said finally. "I've moved on, Sophia. I suggest you do the same." She broke down sobbing, begging for another chance, but I remained firm. After a few minutes, she left, and I closed the door on her and that chapter of my life, for good. The unexpected twist. Months later, I received an email from a journalist working on a story about corporate corruption. She wanted to interview me about Derek and Sophia's scandal. I agreed, thinking it might be cathartic to share my side of the story. The article went viral, painting me as the man who overcame betrayal and turned his life around. My consulting business gained even more traction, and I started receiving speaking invitations from conferences and events. Life, it seemed, had a way of rewarding those who endured. The final reflection. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if I went too far in my revenge. But then I remember the humiliation, the betrayal, and the sheer audacity of Sophia and Derek's actions. In the end, I came out stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Sophia lost everything, Derek became a cautionary tale, and I found freedom in rebuilding my life. Revenge may not have been the noblest path, but it was the one I needed to take to reclaim my dignity. As I sat on my porch one evening, watching Max chase fireflies in the yard, I realized something: the best revenge wasn't the chaos I had unleashed on Sophia and Derek. It was living a life they could only dream of.